You know that feeling, right? You get a prescription, you take it, and maybe nothing happens. Or worse, you get a ton of side effects. It's so frustrating. But why? Well, today, we're going to crack open a huge medical mystery, one that's literally written in your DNA. We're talking about why the exact same drug can affect people in completely different ways.
I mean, it happens all the time. Your friend raves about a new medication, says it's a miracle. You try it, and bam, nothing but side effects. Or maybe a standard painkiller knocks out your partner's headache. But for you, it's like taking a sugar pill. So what gives? Is it just bad luck? Nope, not at all. As we're about to find out, there's a very clear reason for this, and it has nothing to do with luck.
You see, for decades, medicine has kind of worked on this one-size-fits-all assumption. The goal was simple: find a drug, figure out the dose for the average person, and prescribe it. But here's the catch. When you look at our biology, at our DNA, there really is no such thing as an average person. We're all unique. And that one-size-fits-all model, it's not just a little off. For a whole lot of people, it just doesn't work, period. So if it's not random, what is it? The answer has been hiding in plain sight this whole time. It's written into the very code that makes you, well, you. It's all in our DNA.
And this is where it gets really cool. Scientists are now figuring out how to read this personal drug code inside each of us. There's a whole field of study dedicated to this, and it's changing everything.
Okay, it's got a bit of a mouthful for a name: pharmacogenomics. But don't let that scare you. It's just a mashup of two words: pharmacology, which is the study of drugs, and genomics, the study of our genes. So all it really means is using your unique genetic code to pick the right drug at the right dose just for you. Pretty amazing, right?
So how does this actually work? Well, it all comes down to something called a genetic polymorphism. Whoa, another big word. But all it means is a common, tiny difference in our DNA code. Think of it like a spelling variation. These aren't rare or weird mutations. They're the normal little quirks that make us all different, and they are the exact reason we all react to drugs in our own way.
Okay, but how can such a tiny little variation in our DNA have such a massive impact? To really get it, let's use an analogy. Imagine your body is like a giant, super efficient factory. The main hub of this factory, that's your liver. And running the assembly lines inside are your workers. These workers are actually tiny proteins called enzymes, and their one big job is to process and break down any drugs that come into the factory.
Now, in this factory, you've got a whole crew of workers, but the most important ones belong to a family called CYP450. And within that family, as you can see here, there are a couple of absolute superstars, like CYP3A4 and CYP2D6. These guys are the heavy lifters, the all-stars who process the vast majority of common medications.
Okay, but here's the big twist in the story. Remember those little genetic variations we talked about? Well, because of them, not everyone's factory workers are clocked in at the same speed. That's right. Your personal DNA is the instruction manual for these enzyme workers. It tells them if they should be working at a super fast pace, a really slow one, or just somewhere in the middle. And this one little detail, this difference in speed, changes absolutely everything.
Just take a look at this graph. This shows what happens with a common antidepressant. The person over here with 0 working copies of the gene, they're a poor metabolizer. After 24 hours, the drug level in their blood is still sky high, which is a recipe for side effects. But now look all the way over on the other side. This person has 13 copies of the gene. They're an ultra-fast metabolizer. Their body chews through the drug so fast that it's gone before it can even do its job. It's the same drug, same dose, but the results are worlds apart, all because of their genes.
And don't think this is some super rare thing. It's not. In fact, check this out. The likelihood of being an ultra-fast metabolizer varies a ton depending on your ancestry. Almost 30% of people from Ethiopia have these extra gene copies. This is a perfect example of why a standard dose that works for one population might be totally ineffective or even dangerous for another. So this isn't just some interesting science experiment. This has real, sometimes life-or-death consequences in the clinic. Let's look at a perfect real-world example to see just how important this is. Okay, let's talk about a drug called warfarin. You might have heard of it. It's a really common blood thinner that saves a lot of lives, but it's also notorious for being a nightmare to dose correctly. It's like walking a tightrope. Give too little, and you risk a dangerous blood clot. Give just a little too much, and you risk serious internal bleeding. Getting that dose exactly right is everything, and our genetics is what makes it so darn tricky.
So here's the first piece of the puzzle. The main worker enzyme that processes warfarin is called CYP2C9. And if you look here, you'll see that genetic variations that make this worker slow are pretty common in people of Caucasian ancestry, but much less common in people with African or Asian ancestry. Right there, that's a huge clue.
But wait, it gets even more complicated. It's not just about how fast you process the drug. Warfarin also has to hit a specific target in your body to work, and that target is controlled by another gene called VKORC1. And just look at the differences here. A version of this gene that makes people extra sensitive to the drug shows up in about 40% of Caucasians, but in a staggering 90% of Asians. So, you see the problem? To get the dose right, you have to consider both genes, the one for the factory worker and the one for the drug's target. It's a double whammy.
The good news is the experts are catching on. Big regulatory bodies like the FDA and the United States are now updating drug labels to include this kind of genetic information. For drugs like warfarin, genetic testing is now officially recommended before the doctor even picks up their pen to write the script. This is becoming standard practice.
So what does all this mean? It means we are on the cusp of a completely new era in medicine. We're moving away from treating the average person and toward a future where medicine is built just for you.
This is the real promise of pharmacogenomics. It's about getting rid of the guesswork, the trial and error. The goal isn't just finding the right drug anymore. It's about finding the right drug at the right dose for your unique genetic code from day one.
Now, are we completely there yet? No, but the science is moving incredibly fast. So really, the question isn't if your DNA will help guide your prescriptions one day, it's when. The future of medicine is personal, and the instruction manual is already inside of us. Thanks for tuning in.